G'day. How are ya? How's your mum? As a first timer in the chat, may I get a quick explanation of Forex from you, Wayne? Welcome, Angelo. Let me go through the routine. I gotta do some things, and then I'm happy to answer questions. It's a pretty broad question. What is Forex? So we'll come back to it. How about that? But let's go through the routine, and yeah, sure. Anybody else brand new, by the way? Any other newbies and first timers? Yeah, cool. And how'd you run into this webinar? How'd you find me? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stephen Gray, yeah. Oh, through TradersWay and stuff. Cool. Right on. Anyways, let's get going. Let me click all the right buttons. Kevin, that's so funny. Better love story than Twilight. So anyways, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Forex.Today. Let me remind you that trading Forex is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. So please always stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose. My name is Wayne McDonell. I'm the Chief FX Market Strategist for TradersWay. It's an ECN. Enters your trades directly into the interbanking system. It's almost like you're a billion-dollar hedge fund manager. Cool, huh? We do these sessions every single day here at Forex.Today at 7:30 in the morning, which is London lunch, a couple hours before the New York Open. A good time to get together as a trading community and realign our satellites. I'll take you through the charts and calendar and fundamentals and technicals and tell you what I'm thinking, but also if you have questions or would like to tell us what you're thinking, please do. And then on Fridays, I do these sessions at fxstreet.com. And this Friday is non-farm payrolls. Is it 115th, Joseph? Really? Woot, woot, woot. 115 months in a row. Holy smokes. So if you found us on YouTube or some other place and you're watching this video, feel free to join us every single day here at Forex.Today. Just click over here to register, and and then you can join us. Cool. So you'll find at least a dozen trading ideas right there on the web page, developed by our team of analysts around the world that are watching the markets on your behalf, thinking about them, pondering them, and then writing down the trading ideas and analysis and strategies for you for a whopping fee of $0.00. Cool, huh? So what has happened recently? Chinese PMI, 48. Remember, yesterday we discussed this. Anything below 50 means the economy is contracting. So, okay. We kind of figured that was going to happen anyways. Another measure, 49.6. It's contracting faster and faster. 3-year low. Aussie! Oi! So we talked about this yesterday. How many people actually paid attention to this? Less jawboning by the RBA means Aussie dollar goes up. Did anyone pay attention to that? I must have spent about 10 minutes on it. That we haven't seen a lot of that information, let's say, that in any of the RBA meeting minutes and recent speeches and stuff. So they didn't change their interest rates, but once again, they said nothing about the Aussie dollar being overvalued. And they also said a few things like, you know, commodity prices stabilizing, right? They also said that housing wasn't such a problem. In places like Sydney, they were worried about bubbles. Well, that was less of a worry. All of that is good news, isn't it? And, you know, Aussie's up, what, about 75 pips versus US dollar, and quite a bit more. The bottom yesterday was 88, and we're almost at 90. So if you're trading Aussie yen, you're up almost 150 pips, let's say. And we definitely talked about it. And one of the things I talked about was that you really should be front running some of those an event like this. And I also cautioned you that sometimes what you find is the Aussie moves and then collapses back on itself. So yeah, I don't see that behavior. I think it would have kind of already started to happen by now, but always keep it in mind. So when you get to, let's say, if you're long Aussie end and you can cash out with a couple hundred pips at 90, maybe you should. Yeah, Aussie yen's performing well, and the reason for that is you have to line up the fundamentals. Why would you short the US dollar? Okay, sure, it's not ripper strong today, but just in general, the fundamentals are more likely to offer dollar strength than dollar weakness. So I would rather, if I was going to buy Aussie dollar, I'd rather buy Aussie yen or Swiss franc or something, right? Yeah, I thought I spent a fair amount of time on that. So anyways, it's up a couple hundred pips. There you go. All right, so trade balance. Not amazing. But, I think what we're talking about here is a bottom in the Aussie, right? Remember that 70 would be the floor? Well, Aussie dollar versus US dollar is tickling right this second 73. So we're 300 pips off the probable bottom. And James brings up the discussion like a hedge fund manager. One of the things I talked about is what's your sellable idea for the next 12 to 18 months for the currency markets, right? What would you say to a sophisticated investor that would make them want you to trade their money for them? Well, obviously you'd have to have a smart outlook, and maybe a bottom on the commodity currencies might be part of your alpha. Who knows, right? And then I threw this in there. I think you might find it interesting. Revenue in Macau is only down 33%. Sorry, 32%. What? What? Holy smokes. What? Year over year, only down 32%. Yeah, Kenny's like, yeah, but it was up like a rocket in the past. Well, whatever. That's still a big negative number. Yeah, and it's only the 18th consecutive month of decline. Whoa. Wow. And it's still year over year, because if you think about it, if that's 18 months, then a year ago was the 6th month in a row of losses, and we're 32% below that. Yeah, Demuth says no one gambling anymore. Well, the Chinese are poor this year. Okay, that could affect things, right? Yeah, perhaps, Kenny, the lots of things, right? Okay, European session. German unemployment. Such a weird number, isn't it? Negative is a positive. Who thinks double negative? Do Germans think double negatively? Like, why wouldn't you say just call it the change in employment? Why would you say change in unemployment? So, anyways, negative 13 unemployed. So 13,000 people hired. Okay. Unemployment rate 6.3. It's about 5 in the United States, right? So there's comparatively. Germany is a big exporting nation, big, strong economy. European zone, the Eurozone, this is the unemployment rate, 10, right? Basically 11, I would call it. 11%. Well, the United States never hit 11%. So that's pretty bad, right? Lowest since January of 2012. Okay, somebody asked about the stress tests for banks in England yesterday. And what I said is, everyone expects it'll be just fine. So guess what? They all passed. Yay! Cool. Carney comes out, does his press conference, states that the UK banking sector was more resilient than pre-crisis, saw no new wave of capital rules coming, which, again, if the government gets involved, it just makes things more complicated and more expensive, right? And higher capital costs would be passed on to borrowers, which means interest rates go up. Ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding. Right? Or at least prices. So there you go. Interesting. What's on board today? Canadian GDP. Uh-huh. Okay. So at 8:30, watch the CAD. 9 o'clock, Kiwi. So what, a week ago? No, sorry, 2 weeks ago, I taught you guys how to trade this global dairy auction. Isn't that funny? And I think the video on YouTube is called Cows and Kiwis. Let me check Forex.Today. Dressed up like a car crash. Okay, there can't be too many posts about cows. Cows and Kiwis, the hidden relationship of the NZD and dairy prices. Would anybody like the URL to this? So that you know how to trade this today? All right, there you go, Denise. Boom. Cool, huh? Cows and Kiwis. Who would have thought? Who would have stunk? Okay, 9:30. Manufacturing data out of Canada. So, right, a lot of things going on there. Construction spending, fine. ISM manufacturing, yeah, yeah. And what I've been teaching you is that you should use this data as a way to track trickle down economics, trickle down QE kind of thing. I always think of this data as, sort of the plight of the factory worker, the warehouse worker, the forklift drivers, and the assembly line people. How are they doing? And you can see the number is above 50. So it means expansion. So the higher above 50, the better. Remember, most manufacturing data in the world is a negative number. Like we're watching China fall, right? 48 kind of stuff. Here we're above 50 and growing. And that's a good sign because it's going to lead to other parts of the industry, right? And then we'll see later in the week, we're going to see ISM services. But and most people skip this kind of manufacturing data. But like I said, I think this is something that we should watch now as the true sort of base of the economy. Prices paid, yeah. If that goes up, that's good. And then I added this here yesterday. Mexican remittance comes out at 10 o'clock. What did I teach you yesterday about how to trade the Mexican peso? All right, you can see right here. 20-minute Forex trading strategy, how to scalp the Mexican peso and why it works. Okay, so what did I kind of show you very often happens at the beginning of the month? Okay. So USD MXN, should that go up or should that go down based on the theory? And that's a good thing, right? It should go down. So let's see what happened between yesterday and today. Oh, that's funny. I'm showing you things on the website and you can't see it. Hang on. All right. So we're here. Sorry about that. Now I can't see if you can see the Forex.Today. Yeah, I don't think it's displaying properly. No, but you do see an old chart, right? Let me reset this. Hang on. Un momento. It's funny. There we go. Maybe this will up. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So anyways, here's the video. I don't know if you want to watch it again. Well, let me just pop this down for you. Okay. So we talked about it for 20 minutes yesterday, that based on something that I've noticed over years and years and years and years and years, and I've taught this strategy for 5 or 6 years, that very often you'll find that USD Mexican peso falls right around yesterday and today. Oh, Kenny watched it again, liked it, and left a comment. I appreciate it. And let's see what happened. Oh, snap! So when we did our video yesterday, or our session yesterday, we were kind of like in here. Yeah. Nice, huh? From 16.6 to 16.5. Look at that. And falling. Yep. Lewis is up 60 pips. Good job. Steven took most of it. Nice. Free money, huh? Can't wait to get those Cuban cigars. I keep saying that, and then I won't give you my home address. Interesting. So anyways, there you go. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. There it is today. Okay, and I had it set up like this. Do you recall on the more macro level? Yeah. James says, how often does a peso stay strong for longer than a week? I don't have any data on that, and that isn't like what I can tell you, and what I did tell you, and what's in the video is like the understanding of the human nature that creates the phenomenon. Okay. How long does the phenomenon last? I don't know. And there, for just casually observing, I don't see any strong data that suggests one thing or the other. What I can tell you is more often than not, the prevailing fundamentals will take over. So if the Mexican peso is weak, it might get strong for the 2 days that the $2 billion enters the market, and then when that demand is gone, we just go back to doing what we were doing. But it could also be the beginning of the turning point of if the market does happen to want to go strong peso, then that very often is the turning point. But it's not going to move the market. I mean, it's not going to change anything on the long run. So if we go back to this, okay, at 10 o'clock, the number comes out, and last month, $2 billion came in. And this month, they're expecting 2.1, a little bit better. Okay, that's fine. And just think of it as like a hedge fund coming into the market, and we know sometime between yesterday and today, and maybe some tomorrow, but we don't know, that about $2 billion US dollars, actual $2 billion US dollars, are going to enter the Forex market and buy Mexican peso. And when that buying is over, that demand is gone. Right? You see what I mean? So what happens after that demand is gone? Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends. I mean, we're talking about, I've been doing this for 6 years. How many months is that, right? And then is it the same? No, it's never the same. I put it that way. It's never the same. How come you don't see it on your calendar? I don't know. I just told you. So anyways, you're welcome. And if you weren't here yesterday, well, it's on the website, so you can watch it here. Watch the Mexican peso one. Cool though, right? We talked about it yesterday, and then today you're rich. There you go. Stephen's like, thanks so much for that. Hey, you're welcome. Okay. So where are we in the world of euro? Okay. I'm a bit nervous in the sense that we're getting closer to the December meeting, and I think everything's priced in. And I don't think anything smart is going to happen. I think the smart money has already been made. The smart money is shorted high, like I helped you set up. And then I think we're going to get a wave of dumb money. How do you feel about that? I've been pondering this in my meditations. I think we're going to get a big wave of dumb money that's going to come in so unbelievably light to catch dollar strength, because they're like, oh, the Fed's going to raise interest rates. Now I should buy a dollar. Right? And what's going to happen? I think that I'm not going to predict it because there's nothing here yet. But wouldn't it just be awesome to have like a 400 pip rally? NFP. I don't think it's an NFP issue. They're going to raise interest rates. I'm not questioning that. You know what I mean? What I'm questioning is the Fed raises interest rates, boom, the dollar gets super weak and does the exact opposite. And we wipe out all the dumb money. Mark says he's long already. See, I would. That's why I didn't want to do that. That's why I don't like. I don't like that kind of stuff in trading. You know, I don't like the counter trend job owning and stuff. There are times when I counter trend, and they're for very specific reasons and stuff. But I don't like spooking the herd. So I think we should just talk about it, let's say, intelligently and intellectually based on not fundamentals, because it's not a fundamental issue, it's just technical, right? The Fed's going to raise interest rate, that's dollar strong. But if it went up 3, 4, 5, 600 pips first, well, it wouldn't change anything fundamental. You see what I mean? Oh, Sambo, I have 86 as my number. So who cares about 98? But anyways, so let's talk about it technically. Are we at support, yes or no? Okay. So as we get closer and closer to this macro support, so this is a 4-hour chart. I mean, clearly we could look at this on the daily, right? As we get closer and closer and closer to this, the drop should at least slow down. And wouldn't you think that the retracements would be steeper and higher than, let's say, just a typical retracement that was in the beginning of the move? Right? So is it going to make a lower low, or is it going to make a double bottom? Okay. Joseph says, what if the NFP numbers come up bad? It doesn't matter. No, it's all done, Joseph. It's done. They decided, in my opinion, they decided in about July. Okay. So this is a technical thing. So how would you know if it was a double bottom or a lower low? Well, on these micro moves, right, you need to break this resistance. But on more of a macro move, don't we have to get like above here? Maybe even up to here? If this is going to go up, like, let's say, long term, right? Do you think we're going to go back to 114? No, Kevin says, what if it's really ugly? Well, tell me, what is the probability that NFP is significantly off trend? Then forget about it. Like, just don't even think about it. Who cares about the things that are unlikely to happen? Think about things that are likely to happen, and think about it before most people, and you'll make money. Most people are thinking about what's going to happen in the next, 2 hours. Well, think about what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks or 2 months, and prepare so that you have a better idea what's going to happen in the next 2 hours. So anyways, let's talk about this intellectually. We hit a double bottom. It goes up 600 or 700 pips, drops, and then heads up. Is that what you're thinking about now? Do you think that's likely to happen? Okay. So then we have to moderate this. Okay. How about this? To this level. Well, then let's measure that with a fib study. Okay. So we're basically calling this a 382. So what's the likelihood we have a 382 Fibonacci retracement? Sarah, but which point has a double bottom? Well, you have a chart. Just look at the chart. Yeah. Well, guys, you say probable, but isn't it almost necessary? Otherwise, it just becomes incredibly oversold, right? Even a bear would want some sort of rally in many cases. So if you don't think we're going to make this big high move, then you should at least plan or be prepared for this short-term move. And then what would that predict? That would predict an extension in the direction of the prevailing trend, right? So I have it here as a 382. 382 predicts a 1618, and that moves us down to here. And there's your 99. There's your parity. Okay? Is that what you think? That's one scenario. So if I were me, I would plan for that. There's scenario number one. And then you move on. What's scenario number two? Oh, we just go straight through the support and it never double bottoms. Okay, so what's going to happen there? Scenario number two is like this. Okay. And then Fed raises interest rates, and then we hiccup. So here, I would still think we'd get a bigger pullback if it did that. So now let's measure this and say it still comes up to that area. Same area. And then a drop. This time it's a 50% retracement, and then therefore the extension is going to be smaller. I'm going to call it a 382, and it still ends up being parity. Okay, there's scenario number two. Come up with scenario number three. Right? Because then if it bounces here, then you plan for this. If it breaks here, then you plan for that. And then you might have one or two more. Right? Okay. So that's a plan. If then. How are we doing on commodities? Still stuck in our range, huh? I marked this down. I might have done it over the weekend, and that's not holding. So we're really in something like this, right? Just the bottom of my support area. Back it out. Back it out. Okay, I just have kind of off of this area. Okay, so just nothing special. We're just holding above 40. Doing nothing. Now, if this started to go up, this would be helpful for Canadian dollar. And the Canadian dollar is interesting because it's very, very toppish. Right? So do I have kitty cat here? No, no, no. Let's do that now, if you don't mind. Now remember, I told you lots and lots of Aussie news this week, and there's quite a bit of CAD news. So you're going to get the volume and volatility that you might want. Okay, there's a 5-minute chart on kitty cat. Now remember, yesterday we talked about maybe some Canadian dollar strength. Well, that happened when we were up here and it dropped to this area. Interesting. Look where Auckland, New Zealand opens up, the beginning of the Asian session. Look at that. Right off the weekly central. Lower low, lower high, lower low. Macro lower low, lower high. Right? Look at this. It reverses Tokyo. The London boys come in and they find this elevated. Do they sell high? Right? Well, the London boys, they either buy low or they sell high. Just think of it, the first trade of the day. It's a 5-minute chart, right? So it's very, very sensitive. They walk in the office and here we are. Daily central pivot point, midpoint psych level, and it's up. What is this? It's up 25 or 30 pips from the Tokyo session. If they bought that, that would be buying high. So they sold high. Boom. Nice. Isn't that interesting? Just what's their first trade of the day? Are they going to buy this at the daily central or sell it? No, they sold it. Boom. Okay. What's the prevailing trend? Well, yesterday's high, yesterday's low, and the London boys walk into their office early in the morning. They're at a 50% retracement of yesterday's down move, and it's the daily central pivot. So, do you see what they were thinking? Right? They had their chart like this. And they were right here when they walked into the office. They were right here. What were they thinking? Well, first of all, you can see that Asia already kicked it off the 618. The London boys kicked it off the 5%. And they're thinking a 618 should predict a 1382, right? So they're done. They're thinking that. That's the move for the day. That's the thought process anyways. We don't know what's going to actually happen, but that's what they're thinking. Now, one of the things I talked about yesterday was we could start to see this happen because the USD CAD's toppish. Well, what did I mean by that? I think I might even have to go weekly. No. Well, we could drag it from here, right? What's that thin line that's right in that gray zone? What's that thin line? That I'm highlighting. Current price. Whoa! Let me go back to daily though. Zoom in here. And, you know, it's not fitting quite right with all these pivots and stuff. You see how we had a spike here last week? Okay, and there's a spike, you know, back in September. There's actually a spike right here, and then it kind of peaked for one day and then dropped back below that spike. And it doesn't feel at the moment, if you don't mind me talking about my feelings, it doesn't feel like we want to break it, does it? Does it feel like the Canadian dollar sold off hard enough and that move perhaps has found an end? So I don't know, it's just interesting that these things are happening. And here's another way of looking at it. You know, are we topish? If you go off the real body instead of the wick, you know, that's basically where we are now, right? And if you expected, if you were bear on this, let's say you played it off of last week's high, you sold it at last week's high, right? What's your target? It's going to be the pivot profit zone. Okay, right? If your pivot, if that's your target, what is the projected high for the week? What should the top of the week be? And that would be M3, right? M3 to M1. That is this distance here. M3 to M1. That's the projected range for the week if you're a bear using pivot points. It's pretty cool, huh? I mean, it's literally M3 to M1. It just kind of fits nicely, right? And by the way, let me point something out, just because I see it here. If you hit your pivot profit zone early in the week, like a Monday or a Tuesday, very, 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 very often, sometime before the end of the week, you will touch the weekly central pivot point. And we did. Okay. So if you, just that little tidbit there, if you use pivot points, go back through your pivot point history and see how many examples you can find of hitting the target early and then retracing back to the central. Now, once it does, I don't know what it's going to do, but at least it will touch it. And on this currency pair, I don't even see another example. But go through your charts, find out what happens. Right? Look for the patterns. By the way, what do you think of that move that I set up for you? Look at that. Just gorgeous. 618 predicts a 1382, and that's where we topped out. Lovely, tell your mom. Beautiful setups. Okay, that's a swing, right? You see that? You swing, and you would have been in it for quite some time now. Cool. Okay. So easy swing trade here. So Mark's asking about this one. Very easy trade if you're a swing trader. I mean, I have it even marked out here, right? Probably on one of these big lows, but you just take the old support, it becomes resistance. Okay, see, down, up, short. And then you can see we've had a break recently, right? So you mark that, another short zone. But I'd rather you be short off the bigger move, right? Right, boom. 618 predicts a 1382. So swing target here is 2-ish. 2 and some change. 382 predicts a 1618. Okay. Hey, Angelo. So, yeah. Well, we're here every day. I appreciate the feedback too. I really do. Welcome to the family. So that's how you'd plan the swing. That's on a 4 hour. So you might be asking, well, what do I do now? Well, see that's one problem I think when I start to work with like a new trader, I find out they're so caught up in the short term they never know what's happening. So like, what about the pound to Oz, right? What about the pound Aussie? Well, okay, nothing's changed. Oh no, but what about now? um, okay. Well, first of all, you can see there's beautiful moves here. Beautiful moves, right? You see? Broke support. So if you didn't sell up here, that's fine. So once it broke support, it's really easy. You take the bottom, you drag it across. It's your new sell zone because you can only sell high at resistance. So it comes up, you sell it. Boom, easy. Then it makes a new lower low. Okay, fine. Take that old support, it becomes resistance. There's your new sell zone. It retraces, you sell high at resistance. Boom, easy. Especially since you're going in the direction of the prevailing trend, there shouldn't be any questions, right? It's just straightforward, right? So on the lower time frames, like a 15-minute chart, what do you do now? Well, have you made a lower low? Yeah. All right. Well, today or tomorrow, you want to sell somewhere in there. Let's drop into a 15. Okay. Well, let's go back to the hour. Oh, I see. We already had it. Here, let me go. Let me zoom back in. Yeah, we already had it. Yeah. Well, anyways, lots of chances if you're paying attention. None of this seems complicated to me. Again, you've already missed the second chance. Second chance of the second chance of the second chance. So, if you're focused on this, it looks to me like it's pretty straightforward trading. Kevin says, is there a chance of reversal? And said, well, it can do anything it wants. So there's always a chance, right? But it comes down, if you've done your analysis technically and fundamentally, you should have conviction in what you're doing. And if you're a bear, you need to have the mindset that there is no support. If it's trending down, there's only resistance. Okay? So just like, do we make a low or not? Then the only thing it's going to do next is make a lower high, in which case you're going to sell. And it's going to do that forever until it stops doing that. So where's it going to stop doing that? Well, you got to be cognizant of the possibility of it doing it, and it's probably going to do it at a very logical place, like a key psychological level, like a key pivot point, so on and so forth, a key news event. It's very rarely a random event. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Let me get the news for us. We go to tradethenews.com. Baltic Dry Index almost up to 600. Wow, it's so pathetically bad. Look at that beast, huh? Wow. It's really caught on support.
And the GDP data in just a few seconds. September GDP minus 0.5% month-over-month is 0.5 lower than expected. Year-over-year at 0.0% is 0.4 lower than expected. The quarter still at 2.3% in line with expectation, but prior revised to minus 0.3% from minus 0.5% on a quarterly basis.
Okay, clearly a bad number, which shouldn't be unexpected. It's a negative GDP, though. Psychologically, that's important. But remember, we got some key levels going back to even weekly charts that that are critically important. I'm not sure if we're going to like blow through them without any discussions. You know. Let me get rid of that channel. Oh, I got lots of channels. Delete, delete, delete. All right, so again, here's that little line. On the long term, nothing's changed, even with negative GDP, right? Now, don't get me wrong, negative GDP is really bad. Okay, but even with that news event, we haven't even really touched anything significant resistance-wise. Like, what we did is we tested this, right? We tested 34. I think if we go out to like a 15-minute chart, we didn't even test this. I mean, it's really, on the long term, pretty insignificant, right? And it seems to me a lot of people have already just took profit right there. So it's a scalp and stuff. So pay attention. If you're a bull, pay attention. If you're a bull, you're going to buy the dip, right? It's classic news scalping, right? If you're a bull, you're going to buy the dip. So it's dipping now, somewhere between the 382 and 618 Fibonacci retracement. It's going to go up here. And then around this number, 3433 to 3450, so I'll put it a little higher. It's going to come up, and then it's going to hesitate. And then it's going to come back down to 34, and then it's going to go to the next level up, if it's going to do anything, right? You know, in fact, I think it'd probably do this. No, this is just me guessing. And then back down to consolidate, and the world won't know what to do. So plan it out. Oh, I got some horrible fib going on too. Where's that horrible fib coming from? Ooh, yeah, that big macro move. Yeah, so I got to get rid of that. This one here. Yeah, see, I got to go way up to weekly. Guess I shouldn't have had to way up there. I'm trying to get that line as thin as possible, but I just can't get it any thinner than that. But you can see, again, nothing radical going on here. We're just Noise. So anyways, excuse me. I'll see you tomorrow. You guys gonna check in tomorrow? Yeah? I'll be here. Lots of news tomorrow. Has everyone subscribed to the YouTube channel? Would you do that for me? Here, I'll get you the link. Cool, huh? All right. Well, thank you for everything that you do and all your efforts and your focus, and most importantly, your loyalty to me, but also to TradersWay. So peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May your profits be above average, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.